go.
DanGryder, probable cause, staying alive, staying alive. It's kind of been the theme. I'd sure like for you to stay alive in your general aviation aircraft. You know, the whole purpose of everything I've done over the last really 10 years or more has to do with trying to get some information out to you about how to better stay alive in your general aviation airplane. This video is important. There's no live chat associated. This is not a Sunday night accident recap video. This is a special one-off video that's probably going to stay up and on the air for quite a little while, so I appreciate you following through to the very end. This is kind of a big one, and I think you'll understand why. You know, every time in life something bad happens, it's actually probably something good. It's just that we did not realize it at the time. I think this is one of those situations. If you followed my Texas situation, Charles Cook, I've kind of been beat up a little bit in the internet world. I kind of got it handed to me, and I want you to know that I did not intend for any of that to happen. I simply reported on a standard aircraft accident. Two individuals died in that accident, a father and the son. There's been almost no tribute or honor paid to the father and son that were killed in that crash. At the time, I said, it's too hot, they're too heavy, this is a 65-horse engine. This should not be. All that stuff. So that's what started all that stuff, but I digress. I'm going to tell you everything. Without that whole Texas situation going on, I probably would have existed fat, dumb, and happy just doing a video every Sunday night showing you the most recent general aviation fatal accident as they occur on my sheet. Because of this, I've had to rethink, and I want to say thank you to those that have called in, written in, sent text and emails. A lot of people have called. A lot of very talented lawyers and law firms and individuals have jumped in here to give me some wise counsel on some very important things, and it's caused me to rethink what I wanted to do. I probably would have stayed fat, dumb, and happy, accepting $1 or $2 from some people around the country on occasion for tacos and gas money to travel around and shoot video and talk about these accidents. At this point, all this stuff has gotten to be much, much bigger than I can process as an individual. Remember, there's two things, love and money. I've got a lot of love. I don't have much money. And some of these projects are huge. They're tremendously time-consuming. They're tremendously financially devastating in terms of the amount of resources that you have to work on these. And I'm going to go through these in order here, but I probably would have existed without making any kind of a change without this. So it's actually a good thing, and we're gonna fix that. So tonight I want to announce that because of the people that have called and the people who have specifically donated $1 and $2, I want to say thank you to those. But the people who have given me the most counsel here have talked about making DTSB a 501c3, make an association out of it, do it the right way, set it up as a nonprofit. So therefore, I'm announcing here's my GoFundMe. This money towards this GoFundMe is going towards all the projects, and I'm going to go through the projects that the DTSB Superfund slush fund is going to go towards. The idea is that if you donate towards this, it's a tax-deductible donation. Check with your accountant first because the 501c3 is actually not set up yet, but it will be. Check with your accountant. If you can donate towards the DTSB Superfund, it's going to go into a separate fund. Dan can never touch that money. It's going to go into a separate escrow fund. This money is going to be divvied out towards projects and things that need to get done that's going to help us as a pilot. I definitely want to work. I want to take my passion and my knowledge for general aviation, apply it to this, and I could use some help on all these things going forward. Therefore, the DTSB Superfund is on the way. It's coming. Here's the GoFundMe for it, and I appreciate that. If you'd like to continue to donate towards me as an individual for my travel expenses and doing my Sunday night videos, that's a totally separate deal, and you can still do that via these four methods. Here they are: Zelle, PayPal, CashAPP, Venmo. And I appreciate that a lot. A lot of you have given $1 and $2. A lot of you have given $5 or $10. Keep your donations small and simple. Make sure it does not hurt you. And if you give much more than that, we have to send people to your garage to help you clean that thing up. So don't do that. Let's move on here. What is the DTSB Superfund supposed to be for? In concept, what is it that we're going to do with this? We're going to make this a separate fund. All of the money that goes into that is going to be public as far as where it goes. We want full transparency on where every dime out of the DTSB Super Fund is going to go. Where is this money going to go? Well, I'll cover them in order the best I can here. Number one, this YouTube channel and my efforts have always been AQP, Advanced Qualification Program. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. AQP, Advanced Qualification Program, is a deal they developed for the airlines many years ago. They decided that the airlines were crashing too many airplanes, too many airliners, too many airline pilots were crashing airplanes, so they developed AQP. What is it? It says that once you get your pilot's license, you go through recurrent training, and you're only trained on the scenarios that are going to happen to you while you're out flying the line. A brand new, amazing concept, and they took the old check rides and they threw them away, and they built new check rides based on the scenarios, the things that can happen to you. I say the same concept and the same philosophy is now available to general aviation. 121 World has data-driven stuff. General aviation, we don't need the data. I can tell you what it is that's happening because we have almost one a day general aviation fatal accidents in the United States. It's pathetic what we're doing. What we need is more training on the scenarios that are going to happen. So what I'd like to do with some of this DTSB Superfund money is to be able to go out and shoot video, which I, now with my tiny little itty bitty fledgling YouTube channel, I have the capability to shoot in-flight footage. I've got airplanes, I've got stuff. I can go out there and I can shoot video footage. I'd like to be able to shoot AQP footage for free. No ads, no Patreon, no sponsors, no advertising, no anything. Just videos on AQP. The maneuvers, loss of thrust on takeoff, the rejected takeoff, DMMS, VREF, in the traffic pattern, all the things that can happen to you in the traffic pattern. I've got the capability to shoot quality video and show you exactly how to do it, exactly how not to do it. I'm going to also talk real quick right now about DMMS. I'd love to do a whole video series about DMMS, defined minimum maneuvering speed. You know, any airliner in the world right now is flying around out there. In the cockpit, there's a voice that's going to come on. It's going to say, speed low, speed low, speed low. It means that the speed is low. There's not a cockpit out there that ever says AOA high, AOA high. Remember, an aircraft can be stalled at any airspeed and all that stuff. We know that's true. However, the main thing is we have an indicated airspeed indicator in the cockpit, and it's going to tell you that your speed is low. In the general aviation market, we don't have anything to tell us that our speed is low. Speed low. We have to have DMMS define your minimum maneuvering speed in the traffic pattern, flying around even after takeoff. After takeoff, turning onto the crosswind leg, crosswind to downwind, or departing the area, you're still a DMMS airplane. Climb out on DMMS. Remember that DMMS is best L over D. It's VY. It's also best glide, and it's your minimum maneuvering speed all rolled into one. One magic number that you can placard on your own cockpit airspeed indicator, and it'll help keep you safe. In the traffic pattern down below 1,000 feet, your stall recovery, your spin recovery is futile. You're not going to get a spin recovery below 1,000 feet. Avoid, prevent your stall, prevent your spin down low. If you have an engine failure, push and maintain DMMS all the way into that crash site, all the way in, and you'll be alive to thank me tomorrow. DMS, I'd love to do videos on AQP and DMMS. All that's coming out of the DTSB Superfund to help pay the expenses, the gas, and all that kind of stuff. It's not a lot, but I would love to do it if I could get some help on that. You know, another thing we're going to include in the AQP, in the DTSB Superfund is the funding to help with the FAA Part 16. FAA Part 16 is a complaint. Remember, there's Part 13 and Part 16. If you followed my Griffin, Georgia toxic water, ever wondered why you can't find hangar space at your airport? It's because all your airport resources are tied up with everything: bulldozers, backhoes, diesel trucks, car garages, woodworking, home repair companies, beauty salons, everything inside these hangars at these airports. They're not being used. There's a federal law that says that the airports have to be used for aeronautical activity. It's illegal to do that. Your airport sponsors, which is your airport city managers, county merit managers, your people that are managing your public airports, are under grants and assurances. You can send a Part 13 informal request and complaint. If they tell you to pack sand and tell you no, they're not going to do anything, then you're up to a Part 16. I'm going to show you the Part 16 complaint because ours for Griffin, Georgia is fixing to come out. I'm going to show you the blueprint, show you exactly how we do it. Once they are the recipient of an FAA Part 16 complaint, they're on the hook. It's a big deal, and they're going to have to spring into action and fix some things and answer this FAA Part 16 complaint. It's a big deal. I'm going to show you the blueprint. I'm going to show you how we did it. I can even send you the blank document so that your attorney in your town and your airport can copy it. It's a how-to. It's a YouTube how-to, how to file an FAA Part 16. And frankly, there are some airports around the country that need to get hit with an FAA Part 16 formal complaint because you airport managers are not maintaining your airport, your aeronautical use, your hangar space, and your ground and your resources are being gone to other uses, and it's against the law. It's the whole reason that we don't have room for our airplanes. Our airplanes are having to sit outside, and we can't get hangar space. It's because of this. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. If you want to contribute towards the DTSB Superfund, all that's going in there, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. You know, another thing that the DTSB Superfund is going to go towards is creating a website. We've got it just about done. It should roll out in the next 10 days, I hope. This is a wiki-based FAA deal where you can anonymously, with no IP address, no name, you can turn in the name of an FAA employee. We have a tremendous problem going on right now with FAA aeromedical. The FAA aeromedical people are yanking people's medicals. They're not responding. You can't communicate with them. We have a website where if you have the name of an FAA individual that's involved in improper conduct, does not handle your case, is not handling you properly, you can write up a paragraph. You can write this person up and post it with their name. Your name does not appear, only their name does. We're going to collect a database of the complaints against FSDO people. It could be anything on the FAA side. The main thing that the FAA does not want is that they do not want their name in lights. Any individual working for the government does not want their name associated with anything. We're building a website where you can actually post their name, their actual real name, and write up a paragraph about them. There's nothing that they can do. You have to keep it clean. This is not a slam thing, but you can tell your story on what they did. How did they take your medical? How did they treat you? How many years did you go with no correspondence, with no information? How did this FSDO person attack you? How did this FSDO person manufacture a complaint? The complaints and the stuff is endless out there. There are so many thousands of things that our FAA has done to our citizens. It's amazing. We're gonna launch this deal. I'd like for you to contribute to this. If you have a story, something that in the government where an individual by name has done something to you and you did not get a fair shake, write it up, put your paragraph. Your name will not be associated with it. From that, we're going to keep the database of who the really bad people out there are. I can tell you right now, FAA Aerospace Medical is on the warpath. I don't know if you've seen this stuff. Here's a headline right here. They are revoking medicals, and this whole thing has gone crazy. I'd like for this FAA wiki database that we're constructing to be a very powerful tool. Name these people by name. Let's put their name in lights and what they did and how they handled your case, how they mishandled your case. Write it up fairly, write it up in your own words, and push submit. It's going to go on there, and I think this is going to be a very good thing. All handled by the DTSB Superfund that we're launching. That's the 501c3, and it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to this website going live here in the very near future. Obviously, one of the things that's going to happen in the DTSB Superfund, the 501c3, I've got to have some help on the Charles Cook appeal process. We're filing the appeal. The one thing that they did not want me to have out of this entire thing was a trial. They did not want a trial. They wanted a default judgment, which means that nothing was ever heard. I never had my case heard. I never had the opportunity to tell my side of the story. I got cooked in Texas by the local homeboys, and I'm going to appeal that. I need some help with all of that. All that's going to happen. We've got that in the works. Your First Amendment rights to report on a plane crash and say what happened, all that stuff should be available. And most importantly, any citizen should have the right to a trial. If you're going to accuse me of something, in this case, these people in Texas sent a process server to my hangar when they knew full well that my home address, I had already communicated with the attorney firm. The plaintiff's attorney had already called me. I had talked to them. I had already called them. They had my home address, and they had already sent me a letter to my mailbox. I already had it. Where did they send the process server? They sent it to my hangar 21 miles away, and nobody was there. The process server made one attempt and went back. Then they used social media to effect a service via social media to an email address that I do not check and did not even know. I did not find out about it. So that's all that happened here. It's dirty pool. We know it's dirty pool. Here's the graphic for that. My attorney on this thing was absolutely livid that this happened, but this is a good old boy network. The plaintiff's attorney and the judge are friends, which is fine. That's how it happens to work in Texas. I'm the outsider. I get it. I need some help with the DTSB Superfund. We're going to follow this through to the end. I want a trial. I'd like to be in a courtroom with my people against Charles Cook and show that what I said is not improper, and I stand by what I said in each one of those videos. It's a very horrific accident, and I'd like to prevent any two individuals from jumping in a airplane of this size with a 65-horse engine. This guy in the front seat was 280 pounds. His son was in the back seat, 230 pounds. A horrible accident. That's what started the whole thing. They're thinking that they can shut me up with a default judgment. I know it looks horrible. And AOPA got involved, and Milliken got involved. I know I'm the underdog, but that's what this DTSB Superfund is going to be for. I have to have the help in seeing this through, and I appreciate that. Here's one of the next things that we're going to talk about. You know, the next really realm of possibility on this thing is using the DTSB 501c3 Superfund. I think it's possible. We're thinking about it, but it's probably going to happen. I'd like to use DTSB funding, depending on what we get here. I'd like to sue AOPA. I'd like to sue Mark Baker. He's the CEO of AOPA. I believe, in my own opinion, there's some real ethical problems and wrongdoings going on at AOPA. I believe that AOPA conspired with Dan Milliken in advance. Notice those two are the only ones brave enough to run the story and run with it. Dan Milliken specifically took a direct interest in this. Did they exchange emails? Did they conspire? Is that illegal? I don't know. I don't know if it's illegal. I think that AOPA used their resources in an attempt to smear an individual for their own particular purpose. I think this is all that's happened here. We can find all that out once a lawsuit is initiated and we enter discovery. With discovery, we can do depositions. We can get the emails. We can depose Mark Baker. We can depose Dan Milliken. We can find out they're going to have to collaborate their stories. Somebody's going to have to lie under oath. I think at the worst case, it's not going to look very good. I think that there's a strong possibility that they conspired with intent, with effort to smear an individual. They used AOPA resources at the urging of Dan Milliken against an individual. I think that's all that's happened. That's my opinion. I think we should use DTSB Superfund money to launch these accounts. AOPA, Mark Baker needs to get served, and let's get the discovery going. Let's get these depositions going, and I'd like to see these emails that went back and forth. Now, let's talk further about AOPA. You know, I've not been much of a fan of AOPA since Mark Baker showed up on the scene. He immediately increased his own salary. Now, at this point, his salary is around $1.6 million per year. AOPA only takes in around $10 million per year. The total amount of expenses between executive salary, bonuses, and commissions, plus their executive jets, their executive jet travel, all that kind of stuff is astounding. That's your AOPA dues going for this. And now, the most astounding thing is that Mark Baker took his caravan to Oshkosh. He flew up there in his caravan. He got a Grand Lindy. A Lindy Award is for craftsmanship. Owners, people who have spent a lifetime building an airplane, you get a Grand Lindy for many years of hard work. Who did the Grand Lindy go to at EAA Oshkosh this year? It went to Mark Baker. The airplane was 208 Juliet Kilo. Now, just a few days ago, AOPA produces this video that I took very special interest in. They took 208 Juliet Kilo and they needed to fly it to Alaska. So here's Dave Hirschman and somebody else flying this to Alaska. I think, this is my opinion, I think the way this looks here is that Mark Baker dry leased his airplane back to AOPA for the purpose of getting it up to Alaska so that they could do a video. They did a video and it got about 4,500 views or something like that, and all that's fine. So they could definitely write it off. Is it illegal? Not necessarily. I think it's kind of unethical. Was Mark Baker in the airplane during this trip? I think so. And in this freeze frame, I'll show you. Here's a picture of the airplane. On the way up there, they only landed it on land airplanes. That's because Mark Baker didn't want to get his airplane salty. He only landed it on land to get it all the way up there. Once they got there, I think Mark Baker kept the airplane up there and flew it around at his own personal pleasure before AOPA had to fly it back home again for him. Here's Mark Baker, and here's the interesting thing. I'm going to show you a screen grab I think this is Mark Baker with a ball cap, and I think that they did excellent Photoshop on this. Notice this black line in here. I think they used Photoshop to make sure Mark Baker's face and his AOPA logo on his shirt did not show up. I think this is Mark Baker in the back seat of this thing, and they specifically took efforts to make sure that that was not Mark Baker. If it's not Mark, I'd like to know who it is. I've asked AOPA who's in the back seat of this. So far, no response to that. I think this is a Mark Baker trip. I think they flew it to Alaska for the benefit of Mark Baker. I think AOPA paid for this entire caravan trip to get Mark Baker's personal airplane. Here's his registration for this, 208 Juliet Kilo. It's definitely owned by Mark Baker, CEO of AOPA. I think there's a tremendous amount of funny business going on at AOPA. I think Mark Baker is all about Mark Baker and all the benefits that he can get out of this thing for his own personal jollies and doing what he wants to do. We as members, I'm not a member, but you as members out there, this is the organization that's supposed to be all about safety. We're supposed to be spending our money to helping our members, helping our fellow members reduce the general aviation fatal accident rate, increasing safety. We're supposed to have everything out there. AQP for general aviation should be on the forefront of AOPA. They should be helping us. What are they doing? They're flying around in their caravan going to Alaska. This is Mark Baker in this airplane. I'm pretty sure. I'd like to get your opinion. I'd like for you to go freeze frame that video and go to that spot on the video and take a look for yourself.
We are in Anoka, Minnesota. What is our mission?
We are going on a dream trip, and it was a really successful trip, and now it's just a matter of getting it home. Now it's just a matter of getting it home.
At this point, you may be wondering what my deal is with AOPA. Well, it has to do with ethics. It doesn't really matter what the organization is. If you've got funny business going on in any organization where you're taking hardworking people's money and not being forthright with what you're doing with it and not publicly reporting what's going on here, I think that runs into an ethics. I think that's conflict of interest. The main thing that I've always had a beef with is their new relationship in the most recent few years. AOPA is no longer an insurance agency. They partnered with Assured Partners. Now AOPA gets, in my opinion, I think they're getting a direct line cut of everything that Assured Partners gets. So if you think you have AOPA insurance, you do not. AOPA simply answers the phone. They hand you off to Assured Partners. Assured Partners becomes your nationwide broker to find you the coverage, the price, the premium. When you bind your premium, X amount of percent, we're not sure what or how that formula works, but AOPA is getting a kickback even though they're no longer a broker. They're no longer an agent. They didn't provide any consulting. They didn't help you. They never even talked to you. They just handed you over to Assured Partners. The problem with that is that AOPA makes more revenue the harder the market is, the worse the accident rate is, the more the premiums go up, the more money AOPA makes. I believe that entire scenario is a complete conflict of interest. They don't care if the accident rate is horrendous. It's not that they want you to die. It's the fact that they don't really care if you do die, because that simply hurts the actuarial tables. It drives the premiums up. The only thing that they're interested in is the most revenue. Most revenue comes from the highest premiums. Highest premiums comes from the worst accident rate. The entire thing is a complete conflict of interest. I'd like to use DTSB Superfund money to explore that. I will be the mouthpiece. I'll report on exactly what we find. You get to make your own decision whether you want to be a member of AOPA or not based on what we find, but it's going to take funding, money, travel. It's going to take lawyers writing letters. It's going to take all that stuff. I'm willing to do it if you're willing to help me do it. I'm a one-man show. I cannot do it myself. Here's the DTSB Superfund. Here's the GoFundMe for this. And I appreciate you jumping in here and listening to this. It's a big step for me. I've not ever asked for this kind of help before, but I think at this point, the DTSB and this organization, I think there's a tremendous amount of people out there that want to help and want to see all these problems fixed. And I think it's going to be real good. I got one more topic to cover before we get out of here, and that's Brasher. So let's talk about Brasher. A Brasher is a warning. It's written for the last name of a guy who got the first ATC warning. Basically, when you do something wrong in your airplane, anywhere nationwide in America, they issue what they call a Brasher, which means it's a pilot deviation. They'll say November ABC, possible pilot deviation, advised, ready to copy this phone number. You have to copy the phone number, and then you have to call them. It's a Brasher. Nationwide, all airports, all airspace, all everything is treated equally. The whole purpose is collecting data. The whole purpose is finding those flagrant individuals out there, either not knowing the rules or not willing to fly by the rules. Those guys, ATC should be flagging those. My problem here is that we have both Sun and Fun and AirVenture who have been given a complete pass for the last several years on Brasher. How does that work? How is it that Sun and Fun, the busiest airspace, and EAA, the world's busiest airspace in the world, can be completely void of Brasher? Now, I have interviewed the number 2 guy at EAA, Sun and Fun, ATC. He works for the FAA. I'm going to put his voice on here right now. What he said, I've got 4 complete recorded audio interviews with him. I am not against pilots, and I'm not trying to have pilots violated. What I'm trying to do is keep you alive. Those idiot individuals out there that don't have a radio, that land the wrong way, that have no idea where they are, they're flying into you, they're turning into you, they're not following the procedure. Those are the guys that are going to get you killed at Sun and Fun or AirVenture. We have to have the mechanism in place to find them and fix them and do what we need to do. But if we don't identify them and work on that, there's no way that we can find that. Sun and Fun this year had at least 13 or 14 very, very close calls. Many of them were wrong way, head-on with Atlas aircraft. The interview with the FAA guy is astounding. They watched all those happen, and yet not one single pilot deviation was ordered this year at Sun and Fun. Not one. EAA AirVenture had so many blatant operations. They knew who the pilot was. They knew who the end number was. They had everything. Not one single pilot deviation at AirVenture. Am I trying to get you guys at AirVenture busted? No. I'm trying to find these guys for us so that they don't keep flying in there. You're going to get hit by one of these guys. It's going to be a midair. They're going to cross the runway. Runway incursions, taking off the wrong way, taking off without a clearance, landing the wrong way. Those are the guys that we have got to find. The Brasher system is all we've got. It has to be enforced at both Sun and Fun and AirVenture. There is no pass. I asked Mark if there was a pass or a waiver in place at EAA AirVenture for this, and here's what he said.
I mean, we had so many opposite directions this year. We had like 15 to 18 of them this year. Normally in the past, we've only had like 1 or 2 per event. So very unusual this year. We might have had more than 20, to be honest with you. We had 20 opposite directions, of which a couple of them I went and talked to. Dan, I personally saw 4 or 5 airplanes cross runways without a clearance. One of them was a King Air 350. I mean, that's a serious airplane. Pilot errors that could have been catastrophic.
Pilot deviations that could have been catastrophic.
That in the real world would have been a Brasher warning, and FSDO would have investigated.
And yes. How many Brashers did you issue for the whole AirVenture?
None.
Why is that?
Maybe we need to start, Brasher warning these people and have FSDO get involved, because it's just getting too stupid, and somebody's going to get hurt.
All right, I got one important question for you.
Yes, sir.
For both EAA, Oshkosh, and Sun and Fun, is there any kind of an FAA waiver in place that says that the FAA is waived from pilot deviations and Brashers at those 2 events, that because they're at these events that we're waived from our obligation of safety, runway incursions, landing wrong way, taking off without a clearance, all the normal things at a normal airport? Where's the waiver that says that at these 2 events you're completely in the clear? Where is that waiver?
There is no such waiver.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, there's your recipe for disaster right there.
Yeah.
I don't know how these two organizations, for the purpose of financial gain, can compromise safety and say that if you fly in here, the laws of Bernoulli physics don't apply. When two airplanes hit, they hit. It doesn't matter if you're at EAA, AirVenture, Oshkosh or not. You still can't allow stupid, and you can't allow non-competent people. They have to know that if they fly in there and don't have communication and land the wrong way, they're going to get a pilot deviation, they're going to get a Brasher, and there's going to be paperwork, and there's going to be problems. That's not you going out and making a problem. That's you doing your job and doing what you're supposed to do. I don't see how this is possible to have this many blatant pilot deviations and you give everybody a free pass because it's AirVenture. Why?
We still have to, other than what's waivered, Dan, we still have to abide by the .65, which is, is the Air Traffic Control Bible, right?
And what about the Air Traffic Controller Certified Position Responsibility? Why at AirVenture is he not obligated to issue a pilot deviation because he's at AirVenture? How can he get out of not issuing a pilot deviation for something that he physically observed that was completely illegal, completely unsafe, completely wrong way? How could a controller not issue a pilot deviation?
So I don't have a good answer for you, Dan.
Appreciate you hanging with me to the end. This is to announce the new DTSB fund. It's not my money. Whatever you donate towards this, whatever amount it is fine. It's going to go into a separate fund that I can't touch. If you'd like to be on the board, the advisory board, if you're legal, if you're a law firm and you want to help with this off the record or on the record, if you want to be named or highlighted, I can do it either way you want to do. I'm going to draw attention to those individuals who are helping with this project and helping us along the way. We've got a tremendous amount of stuff. I'd love to work on AQP. This is frankly up and beyond my ability to keep up with it. At this point, I'm going to have some help, and I'd love to do it. But this is the point where I ask for the public for help so that we can get some funding to keep these things going. And this is your opportunity. Your donations, big or small, are appreciated, and anything that you can do towards this GoFundMe is going to get started. If you are an expert in the 501c3 arena and you're a pilot and you want to help with that, I'd love to talk to you, and we're going to see if we can get this going. Whatever happens, and I appreciate this video is going to stay up and on the air. I'm probably not taking this one down. For my tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel, DanGryder, probable cause.